Jack Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
And I'm John Humphrey.
Alba.
I'm Grindelwald.
I don't know if you guys have caught on. We have watched J.K. Rowling and David Yates's Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. Before we go into this review, we got to say a thank you to the wonderful people over at Real D3D for having us at their nightclub party yesterday. Wow, there was a lot of people there, and it was like a lot of popping music. It was a great time with a lot of wonderful food, but more importantly, the 3D in this movie, and we're not just saying it. Otherwise, we just say thank you. It was actually really good 3D. They were showing us they did something different with their glasses this time around.
Yeah, they've got the best, most state-of-the-art screens and whatnot with the truest colors and the brightest tones, and honestly, this is one of the best 3D movie experiences.
It really does show throughout the film.
Throughout the movie, I was like, wow, this is really 3D.
I mean, I made a sarcastic comment like when the logo Warner Brothers was like, that's the best it's gonna get, and then I'm like, oh, actually, a lot of this is popping in. Yeah. So thank you guys for doing that, but we're gonna talk about the movie now. Is gonna be our non-spoiler review. I don't think we're gonna do a spoiler review for this movie, to be honest, but yeah, let's just go right into this. Putting this out there right now. Johnny Depp as Grindelwald was probably, like, especially looking back on this film, is probably the best part about this movie. It's called The Crimes of Grindelwald. You want to see what Johnny Depp's going to do for this film. In my personal opinion, Newt Scamander is still my favorite character, but Johnny Depp as Grindelwald, the setup of Grindelwald and the finale with Grindelwald were the best moments in this film. The opening of this movie is fantastic. Like, it is an awesome, awesome opening, and the introduction of, or the reintroduction to Grindelwald is so good. I rewatched the first Fantastic Beasts a couple days ago. There was that part of me that was like, I wonder how Johnny Depp's gonna do in the sequel. Because you're like, is he gonna do like another chewing up the scenery kind of performance? But you know what? He's very subtle in this movie. Yeah. I liked his interpretation, and some of the best scenes, and probably the best scenes in this movie feature him in it.
Yeah, he's the most intriguing element, and I guess rightfully so, because he's the namesake character.
And the other highly anticipated thing in this movie, Jude Law as Dumbledore, incredibly charming. I really enjoyed it is young Dumbledore. Yeah. If you were to hear Jude Law is playing young Dumbledore, it's exactly how you'd expect it. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. It's some really good stuff. And it was cool that the most intriguing new elements and the best new elements to this film came in the form of the two most hyped up elements, were Jude Law and Johnny Depp. So those elements were awesome. Good opening, great finale. Still, Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander is still my favorite character. I really like him in the first Fantastic Beasts a hell of a lot. I quite enjoy him again here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of heart and soul, and he's got that quirky kind of everymanish quality that you love, while also being very specific.
Oh, it's so true. It's called Fantastic Beasts, so you got some of the returning beasts from the first one, and you introduce some new beasts as well in this movie.
Like Beast from X-Men.
Beast from X-Men is in this film. Wow, the cinematic crossovers might be a little too much nowadays, but it works in this film, people. Totally. Nicholas Hoult.
and Kelsey Grammer.
Both.
Time Turners, all that shit.
The beasts in this film, there's some new ones that are introduced that you see teased in the trailers, like the one that he's riding through the water. Amazing visuals there. And also like the giant cat-lion hybrid that you see in the trailers.
China.
Yeah, that was some awesome designs. For the Potterheads, they noticed that Nagini, Voldemort's snake, is actually an Asian woman. That's brought into this film, and they have a transformation scene that just looked absolutely incredible.
Really
it was incredible. When that happened, it was like, whoa, that's incredible.
They actually make slightly more of a moment out of that than even in the trailers. So when the moment itself shows up, you're like, oh, cool, you know?
I haven't really rewatched any of the Harry Potter films. I've seen them all. I might say that this is, in terms of like costume design, production design, this is one of the best looking they've done. Like the costumes in here are fantastic stuff.
Fantastic.
I don't get it.
Oh, sorry. Because the film.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. In this movie, seriously, everything is beautiful to behold. I mean, the designs, the world, the effects, the creatures, the costumes, the way it's shot and captured, the music. Like, it's such a well-constructed, beautiful movie.
Yeah, the cinematography is excellent in it. And the music by James Newton Howard on those technical scales, just amazing elements, for sure.
They really do maintain the aesthetic vibe. So, like, no matter what's happening anything. You're just thrilled to be in the wizarding world and all that implies. And it's cool because you also get to see like the French Ministry of Magic. A lot of this takes place in Paris, and you get to see in America and different parts of the world, and not just Hogwarts, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so are we past the watch time mark, past the 4-minute mark where they usually click off the video? Yeah. Okay. All that being said, and I mean it, this movie is also boring as shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's really disappointing for how amazing everything is about it.
I mean everything I said right there. That is all very much true. The biggest things with a lot of these movies, it comes down to the writing and directing. And that's where the weakness of this film comes into play, and hence you end up walking out with a very messy, poorly constructed film.
It's just overloaded.
Like, the terrible joke I have is Fantastic Beasts and the overstuffed subplot. Because from beginning to end, it just seemed like they were starting a new movie every next scene. Not that tonally shifted, it's not like tonally jarring, it's plot jarring, because the first half hour to 40 minutes, gosh, every new scene is a new plot. Yeah. And not like the plot is thickening and the plot is enhancing. It's a new plot.
It's another plot. Yeah. It's like a Katamari that keeps on picking up plot lines and elements and details, and it doesn't ever give any of them enough time to breathe or to have an emotional impact, really. Like, it's a really plotty movie that has these scenes that are really short, so you're just rocketing through a bunch of things, and it's hard to put your teeth into anything.
Because I wouldn't say it's lazy writing, because of the fact that it's not lacking in imagination. That's the furthest thing from the problem with this film. It's full of imagination.
Yeah, and it's even trying to get at some relevant subtext like Harry Potter books do.
The thing is, it's wildly overstuffed. You could just tell there's so many people afraid to tell J.K. Rowling, this isn't a book. You gotta cut this back.
Maybe you should.
This isn't necessary for the movie.
What do you say? Maybe truncate a couple moments and maybe consolidate a few characters like you would when adapting a book.
I was like kind of editing it in my head when I was watching the movie. If you just focused on the main things the trailer advertised, okay, they're looking for credence. Good guys are looking for credence. Grindelwald's looking for credence. And then through the journey, it turns into the crimes of Grindelwald. Instead, it's plot, 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 plot. If you look at the first Fantastic Beasts, you got 4 new main characters in there. Newt, Tina, Queenie, Jacob Kowalski. I keep on saying Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski. Yeah. He would fit right in though.
And then you got the introduction of, essentially Grindelwald. And then you also have the main B story in the first one, which is Credence. And in this movie, they bring all them back as main focal points. But then they also introduce like 46 new characters.
I think that's the thing. Is like this movie wants to make everybody the main character.
Exactly.
And it's not an ensemble successfully in light of that.
And this isn't a comparison to Harry Potter and be more like the Harry Potter movies. It's just an example of where this movie is flawed. If you look at the Harry Potter films, like I've only read the first 3 books, I know you've read all of them, but let's just look at the films. Most of the movie is following Harry. You rarely cut away from Harry to focus on other characters. So while Newt is technically the lead of even this movie, a lot of this movie was me going, oh yeah, this person's in it. Oh yeah, this storyline. Oh yeah, like it was constant. I would sometimes forget Newt's in this movie because you would go, Newt storyline, then this storyline, then this storyline, then this storyline, then Newt storyline, then this storyline, then this storyline. It's not lazy writing, it's just really poorly constructed, poorly structured.
Especially when it wants to drive emotional points home. Because the other thing, too, is this is an oddly titled movie because we don't really ever witness any of the crimes of Grindelwald.
No.
And he doesn't really commit very many crimes in the movie.
The beasts don't really have anything to do with this movie either.
Yeah, there are beasts.
They're there.
And I'm glad that they at least kept them around.
Yeah, because at the first movie, most of that movie is about Fantastic Beasts and where the hell are they located, you know?
Yeah, and this movie takes that as such a weird jumping off point to where it's almost like the first movie doesn't exactly matter that much other than being an introduction to the world and all these characters and the fact that Grindelwald is a threat.
Yes.
And in this movie, I admire that they're going for, Grindelwald's whole point of view is that he just views Muggles as a different class of creature and he wants to, take over impurity. And it's a very much like a neo-Nazi kind of, allegory of sorts. But it just doesn't hit home.
None of the main stuff hits home film. There was one subplot in here that when it occurred, I'm not in the camp that was ever confused. I didn't read the books enough to latch on to a lot of things that are, I'm sure, really strong nuggets and elements that are for the Potter fans. There's one very specific element that I know would be a spoiler if I talked about it. They suddenly go into this giant backstory on it, dealing with Zoe Kravitz's character towards the end of the movie when it happens, and I was just there going, I don't care. We don't need this. Like, I wasn't confused when it occurred, but in terms of a movie, it was like, I just don't care. And I know this movie currently, as we're filming this, has a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes. I understand that majority of critics are recommending this movie. I know there's a lot of Potter fans who really do adore this film. And at the screening we were at, most of the people we were with, we all felt the same way. It was kind of a sluggish experience. When you got so many things going up and your mind has to keep up with so much and nothing is really emotionally gripping or captivating, you wind up with a film that feels tedious.
Yeah, and it's weird to have something move so fast and be so kind of glacial at the same time.
Yes, yeah. There's no bad performances in here. No one does a bad job in terms of their performance, but I will say there's a lot of boring characters. It's the main difference. It's like, I know Ezra Miller is really a fantastic actor.
And where to find him.
Yes. I love the word fantastic. I know he's a great actor, but Credence is so boring and such a focal point in this movie.
He gets nothing to do. It's just everyone's like, we gotta find him, and then when you see him, he'll like look at Nagini, and that's it.
And then you think, and with a movie with overstuffed subplots, there's a lot of plot lines that just get dropped. Things that are introduced and twists that occur where you're like, that never comes back. You know?
This is a weird. This should have been like 2 movies or like a 3-hour movie or something.
If you're planning on making 5 movies, you could have like teased some stuff and left it for your next one.
I was like, are they all gonna be like this? Because maybe you should make 8 movies or something.
Because I don't feel the first one's overstuffed. I like the first one a lot.
I mean, the first one is fun and maybe a little bit light for what it is, but it does all the Harry Potter things to a degree relatively well. This one is just missing that crucial element where you're allowed to be intimate with any of the characters because it's just a plot movie. So hard. It's just like, here's a plot point, and 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 there's never really any, like, the few scenes that work are the ones that last long enough for you to kind of pay attention to somebody and drink in their mannerisms and what they might be feeling and all that stuff.
Literally, it's the opening and finale are the best parts of this movie.
Yeah, because the opening, I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Like, you know, we saw the tomato score already.
I was like, even if it's messy, it's gonna be fun, but it wasn't fun. You know?
No, it wasn't fun, and the magic was very choked about it.
With a movie filled with a lot of great visual looking stuff and a lot of technical like magic because you're in the wizarding world, the movie doesn't feel magical. That's the most disheartening part. And I really feel like you have the writing section, which is insanely overstuffed and trying to include way too much. If you pay attention to the Harry Potter books, they get longer as they go. Yeah. So you'd expect J.K. Rowling to go, well, this is my sequel, I'm gonna do more. And she does. And everyone's too afraid to tell her no. David Yates, it was so weird. The best I can do in comparing what he did with his direction here is like when you get a director to do a great episode of TV, but they're really just fulfilling what's required for the episode. It's like they know where to point the camera, they know how this technically has to be done. Simultaneously, you can feel a strong lack of passion. It's kind of like watching Ridley Scott do Alien Covenant, where, yeah, he knows what to do, he knows where the camera belongs, he knows what needs to be edited, but there's a lack of excitement and passion in what they're doing.
His direction doesn't have an energy about it.
There's 10 Harry Potter-based films now, and out of those 10, he has directed 26 of these movies, you know? Like,
it is to the point where I'm like, what, does he love it this much, or did he like sell his soul or something?
Well, he's announced to direct the next few as well. And I'm like, I don't think when this guy decided to become a director, he's born in the 60s, and the Harry Potter books didn't come out till the 90s. I can't imagine that he was like, can all the things I wanted to ever direct, I'm only doing Harry Potter from here on out.
When we won that Oscar for The Girl in the Cafe, this is really what I had in mind.
Like, he tried Tarzan, didn't pan out. Okay, only Harry Potter world stuff. I really feel like he's over this. It feels almost like he knows what to do, but he's not passionate about this job anymore. I can't blame him because what has he really done? This is his sixth one. And this is like almost 10 years of his life. I can't imagine that he's feeling as strong as he did when he closed out the original franchise, you know?
Yeah, well, and I mean, hey, no disrespect to David Yates. I think he's done a great job with, you know, all the installments up.
This is really the only Potter World movie I don't like.
But one thing, yeah, true that.
Because I liked them all except for this one.
And it's the one movie where it's like, I didn't love the first Fantastic Beasts, but being in the world was enough to make me, you know, appreciate that movie experience. And this movie loses that element even for me. And I feel like one of the charms of the original Harry Potter series for me was the way that they changed directors frequently, and you got kind of different voices.
Kind of a Mission Impossible thing,
Yeah, exactly. And I know that it's a tall order to bring anybody else in after someone has directed Harry Potter for so long, but at the same time, I'm like,
is there no one else?
There's nobody else who maybe might want to step in. And I also realized that, there is a scripting issue because, you know, I'm sure even though David Yates probably has a very tight working relationship with J.K. Rowling now, it's still probably hard to be like, hey, can you change this world that exists in your
very
head?
Hard to,
this most lucrative franchise that all came out of your head.
As much as I can bitch at people for not being brave enough to criticize her script, I'm like, would I be brave enough to tell her? Like,
would I even feel like I know enough to be like, listen, ma'am, I think that you can trim this down?
I mean, the last thing is like one of the main hashtags to this movie has in the marketing has been protect the secrets, and there's a couple of big plot twists that occur in this movie. There's one that's supposed to cause a freak out moment that I think some people are freaking out about.
If you like this movie, you'll freak out. If you're in the 57% or whatever,
talking with Potter fans at the screening and non-Potter fans, I found the Potter fans were kind of annoyed and confused by the twist. The other group was like, I just don't care.
It's not my favorite twist as a Harry Potter fan. And it's, again, in a movie that handled itself better, I fully admit that I might say something completely different. But as this movie stands, all the attempts at twists and surprises, I was sort of like, I don't really feel any impact of this. And I am a little bit like, well, the books touch on something in the area, and none of it involves this, so...
All in all, I really do think that it's a wildly overstuffed screenplay. The directing lacks in passion, and everything in between. Everyone else's job, I think everyone does a great job, but those two ingredients take up a majority of how you end up leaving a film. And unfortunately, I found myself really bored through most of this. The best word I could use is it was kind of sluggish to sit through. It was tedious.
It has a one-dimensional pace. It moves at one clip the whole time and almost never stops to slow down or speed up. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time in a long time I've seen a movie where I appreciate almost everything about it except the actual experience of watching it. It's the actual storytelling and delivery of that story at the core.
I'll close this out with a Patron of the Day shout out on a positive note.
Yes.
I want to say a Patron of the Day shout out to Victoria Huntley, who lives all the way in the UK. And I want to shout you out specifically because when we were last talking to messages, you mentioned that you went to a Halloween party. I remember you said you did a lot of drugs and you got insanely drunk, you know, had some wild kind of orgy. You know what? It doesn't matter. Bottom line, you were dressed up as Hermione. I'm really happy that you got to rock an awesome Halloween costume and that the Wizarding World still continues on, because at the end of the day, even though I don't like this movie, I'm happy that there are fans out there like you who still get to experience and dwell in the Wizarding World, so this movie can still keep you happy that it's still ongoing. Positivity. Thanks, Victoria.
You're magical to us.
All right, guys. Well, did you see The Crimes of Grindelwald? Do you want to watch more of them? You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell. Check us on Patreon. We got TV show reaction, watch-alongs, weekly Q&As, and music video coverage. We'd love to have you become a patron of Jake today.